Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Standout Authors Unbound. And today I'm on Andrea Jones, and she is a fiction writer. So, Andrea, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, the book, and
Yes,
using a pen
yes.
name?
I started writing last year and published my first book in June 25th of 2025. I write under the pen name Olivia Carter, and I write queer romance stories. So my first story is a couple that is two men and they fall in love. And it's all based off of my experience working in social media and the influencer space. So I haven't read a lot of romance novels with like YouTubers or influencers, even though that's, one of the rising creator kind of types. You don't really see that a lot in romance novels. Usually it's, a Christmas tree farm or,
Of course.
like a cowboy. And so my series focuses on um, analyzing kind of like the pros and cons of being basically a minor celebrity.
Hmm. Did you have like anybody in mind when you were thinking about this series? Or is this like, oh, no one has taken this space, so I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
so
take
it's
it?
funny because I read a lot. Like I read over 300 books a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm a big reader. I don't really watch a lot of TV. Like what I do is reading in
Hmm.
my free time. And so I actually started writing first a paranormal romance novel because that's
Hmm.
what I like to read. I like urban fantasy, like give me witches and warlocks and
Um,
werewolves and all of that. So that's what I started writing, but it's like world building is hard. Like, yeah, it's so hard.
oh, yeah.
And so, as I was writing that, I went to like, so my daughters are 3 and 1, and we went to a children's birthday party, and they had this like Spider-Man impersonator there who was just such a big character that I was like, this is a character in a book. So it actually started off with this Spider-Man impersonator, and I used to do, Princess Tiana from Princess and the Frog.
Oh, right.
I used to do that like level type of impersonation when I was, and this is how I paid my way through college. With like I would do kids' birthday parties,
Oh, very cool.
so I know that world too, and so I started actually just writing this children's entertainer who like loves flipping around as Spider-Man and making 5-year-olds laugh. And because he goes viral, that's kind of where it all started. It's like the world building for this story starts with a character who's not really an influencer at all, getting into the influencer space. So I can like kind
Mm.
of introduce concepts to my readers that way. So I always joke that this book started with like a children's birthday party, but it's not for kids.
It's not like this. Yeah, that just tells me that your ideas can come from anywhere, and they usually do. I think Stephen King puts it like they'll just come out of the ether, and just you didn't expect to write this book, but it's the one that you wrote.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah, and I found that because I was so comfortable with the subject matter, like children's entertainment, going viral and like the fallout of, cancel culture or like people stopping you in the street and pretending like they know you. Like I know all of that world pretty intimately. So it was a lot easier to write from that, like through that lens versus my first series I wrote is about werewolves. And it was so much harder for me creatively. It was like a creative stretch for me because I was making up, like, the entire
Everything.
world. Yeah, every little detail.
Yeah.
Even, like, I had these magical components that like, I just made it up. And so, I actually found it to be a lot easier to write about influencers because I, by trade, am a marketer, and I spend my 9 to 5, so to speak, is, all about marketing, and so it was a lot easier for me that way.
Yeah. So can you talk about why you decided to use a pen name versus your own and how you use marketing because you're a marketer as part of your book
Yeah,
strategy?
so I have 2 kids, and the books that I write are not kid friendly. So
Yes.
I,
Good reason.
yeah, they know that I write, and, they know, like, "Oh, that's mommy's book," but they can't even read yet. And I also have a whole identity as a marketer under my name, Andrea Jones. And so I chose a pen name so that it's Googleable. Like if someone searches my
Right.
name, my stuff should come up. I don't want someone to search Andrea Jones. There's already, first of all, there's already two other ones, a lawyer and a real estate agent that come up before me. So that's fine. But then I don't want to also add confusion with like romance writing. So it's part of the reason. And then the second piece is that there are certain, people in my family who do not agree with the subject matter of my book as
Mm,
well, and I don't want them to ever know about it. So, they don't really pay attention to what I'm doing anyways that much, but if they were to just randomly look me up, I don't want them to, like, very easily make that connection.
right.
And so for those 2 reasons, I decided on a pen name, and I had a lot of fun with it, and I think the pen name actually allowed me to create I know almost like an alter ego. So with my
Right.
marketing, I'm able to be a lot more bold, I swear a lot more in that marketing, I'm not embarrassed about, like, talking about highly sexualized things or, like, adult content because it's all under another, pen name, and so it has a website, I have my email funnel set up, I have my social media handle set up, and so all of that has been a lot of fun just as a marketer to create a new brand in a new field for me, essentially.
Yeah. So you get to test all your strategies
Yeah,
and all that
yeah, and
stuff.
it's been fascinating because I've been writing, for the past year, but I didn't start my social media until about, like, 8 months into the process, so it's fairly
Mm,
recent that I started my social media, basically when I launched the first book. And then I have my other writing friends coming to me, asking me like, "How did you grow your Instagram so quickly? How did you, find all of these? How did you get so many reviews on Goodreads and Amazon?" And I'm just doing the basic marketing stuff I would do for any sort of launch campaign. But it's just been so fascinating to like apply it to another industry that is honestly a little bit antiquated. And it's just filled with a lot of hobbyists who don't have the level of like, practical knowledge that I do, with things like creating Instagram posts to promote the book.
yeah. I mean, there's so much. It's essentially its own version of a job, marketing a book. So the fact that you have to write plus market is often one of the detractors for people who are writing books. Once they've written it, they they usually are hesitant to take on the new role or
Yeah, and
simultaneous
I'm
to
finding
writing.
that right now too, so I'm working on book 2 in the series, and, still marketing book 1, and it is
Right.
like, it is so different on this side of it. I almost wish I would have written the whole series, then started publishing. But, here we are. I'm wrapping up book 1, the writing of book 1, and I have an audiobook in production right now. And I'm still like marketing is my full-time job. And so it's a lot to manage. And this is my job. Like I can easily like write an email newsletter or whatever. It's my job. And I'm still finding it hard to balance like, is this writing time or is this marketing time?
Yeah. Balance is one of the hardest things about any creative person. You have to want to do your creative work, but you also want to share it because that's, I think, a lot of the reason why we do things to share it with other people so they can see things from our point of view. And hey, Stephanie, she has a question for you. Are you doing the audiobook
I
in your
hired a voice
voice?
actor for mine. So my audiobook is 2 male characters and it's a fiction book. So I don't want to narrate it.
Hmm,
Um, I think if I wrote like an educational book or even like a memoir style book, then I would narrate it. But because it's fiction, I want like acting to go into it.
right.
And while I was a theater minor in university, acting is not my thing. So even like, those like, lip sync videos, like
Right.
on
Yeah.
TikTok, like I mess them up every single time. I can't do them because my voice, like I just want to say my own thing. So I feel like I would end up rewriting the book as I was reading it. But I hired a voice actor through ACX, which is the Audible Amazon version
Mm.
of um, audiobooks, and they have a whole database of people that you can hire. So I just went through and found the energy that I thought fit the book.
Yeah, how many, different voice actors did you look through before? Or book readers? I guess they're one and the same in
Yeah.
this particular case.
So it's funny because the first person that they actually reached out to me, someone who read my book, who's also a artist and is looking to get his start in the space.
Mm,
So he reached out to me and I was like, I don't know if I can afford this. 'Cause it's really expensive to produce an audiobook. And he
yeah.
said, we'll just do revenue split, which is actually fairly common. I didn't know this going into it. It's fairly common,
Okay.
especially for newer voice artists to do revenue split because they're putting in the time up front, but then they're using your creative work. And so you just split the whatever, I think it's 70-30 split on Audible. So you get 70% of whatever the price is listed at, and then that's further split between you and the voice artist. However, once he started, he was like too new, and I was like, "Oh,
Uh,
this is not what I expected it to be." Um, and there was a few other issues that led to another voice artist who is like just a better fit for this project, but it's not a revenue split. So, long story short, it's going to be amazing, but I think this will be the only one I produce for now. And then I'll write the rest of the books, and then I may go back and once they start making more money, then reinvest that into more audiobooks.
yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, the reason that you chose to do, a queer romance, from a male
Yeah.
perspective?
So funny enough, that's what I typically read, honestly.
Oh, okay.
And I have since I was like 14. I just those are the stories that I prefer. And I think it's like partially a rebellion against how I was raised. I was raised very conservative Christian. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. So very conservative Baptist, Southern Baptist at that, and I never fit in. I could never figure out why I didn't fit in until I became adult, and I realized I was a queer person, and so I just gravitate towards queer stories, and I just tend to read, like, male stories, called MM romance like, as a niche. Though I do read sapphic stories as well. I've been reading a lot of, like, trans romance stories lately too, and I just find the dynamic to be more interesting and, um, I don't know, I prefer to read it. And then I also prefer to just read, stories that have a lot of diversity anyways. I think that the representation is so important, and for me, even for the first book, I put a black man on the cover of my book which statistically means it's not gonna sell as much. Like, all of the research shows, unfortunately, that when you put a black man on the cover, it just doesn't the books don't sell as much as other demographics. So I went into this knowing that, but I like reading stories like that, and it makes me wanna purchase it even more to hear like, to read more variety of experiences, and so, yeah, I that's what I prefer.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I started this series is because a lot of times these types of stories are not getting the spotlight. So how much can I help in my own way amplify everyone else's message? And I think same as you, you're trying to get that stereotype or stigma off of that. And if you can get it popular enough, I think the more popular things get, the more people are likely to embrace it from
Yeah,
other people.
exactly, and I just, like, naturally write that into my stories anyways, like, all sorts of diversity, physical differences, neuro differences, body sizes, skin color, like, walks of life, like, I really try to I don't even try, it's just, like, how I naturally
Right.
would wanna read a story anyways. So one of my main characters, for instance, has ADHD. And it's one of those things where, I was sharing it with one of my friends who's not in this romance space at all, but she was like, "Why would you write a character like that?" And I was like, I mean, first of all, why not? Is like my answer, but also when I read books, it is mostly neurotypical people. And it's you like even if you like go to the Hallmark channel and watch a Hallmark movie, it's usually like young white people.
Have you There's
Like,
such a funny thing about that because you have all the covers. If you pull up all the covers of the Hallmark movies, they are the exact same cover. It's crazy. It's
yeah.
incredible.
It is, and it's like I mentioned before, Christmas tree farmer or like apple orchard, and I'm like, I personally like to read, diversity, and the other piece of this too is, my books are not like, I don't like trauma for the sake of trauma, and I do
Right.
find that that tends to happen a lot when people label their books as diversity, like, someone who's, let's say they have a physical difference, but the entire story is, like, othering
Right.
their experience. I don't like that. Like, I know that that happens, but writers tend to lean too heavily on that sometimes. I wanna have someone who has a physical difference of some sort and, like, they're still a happy person and they still found their way in the world. And then, like for me, I like romance because they find love of their life, they fall in love, and they live happily ever after. Like, give me the actual happily ever after piece, and that's why I like writing and reading in this genre.
Yeah, instead of focusing on the trauma or the differences in people, I think it's important to focus on they're people just like anybody else. It
Yeah, we're
doesn't
all so
matter.
multifaceted, anyways. It's like everyone has so many different angles to them. They're not like a single dimension, and so yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I think the more specific you are with the people that you write about, also, it makes it more universal. Somehow there's this weird thing that happens as when you're going as detailed as possible in your specific experience, the more people are able to
Yeah,
relate
yeah,
to
and
it.
I had to put that in the author's note, the front of the book, because I have noticed, like, just as a marketer coming into the book community, so I'm a huge reader, but I was never like, I never joined Facebook groups about books. I'd never like, book talk, I was never, like, in, like, all of the trending stuff. I just knew the kind of books I would like, and I would just read them. At most, I was on Goodreads, that's it. So as an author coming into this, I was noticing a lot of tension in this community, and a lot of cancel culture happening,
Mhm.
where authors would write books from a perspective that wasn't their own. Let's say like a white author wrote a person of color. They're like criticized very highly for doing something like that, to the point that I thought it was actually hurting way more than it was helping.
Right.
And so I went into this knowing that I'm right, like my couple is a mixed couple, it's a black guy and a white guy, knowing that it is a gay couple too, and I'm not, I'm a woman, so like I'm not in that category, even though I'm a queer person. Knowing that one of like, there's so many layers to all of this too. I went into it and put my author's note and was like, "Okay, this is just one example of one experience that these 2 people can have." I'm not saying that, like, my Black character represents all Black people everywhere. I'm not saying my ADHD character represents all
Right.
experiences that, that an ADHD person has. This is one kind of, like, lens into that, and I think the more that people write these stories, the more it showcases the variety and that we're not a monolith, you know? So,
Yeah, I think it's interesting that people would bring that up because if you're writing a book, the experience of the characters are all different from your own. It doesn't matter what you're writing about unless you're writing like nonfiction, right?
yeah,
If you're writing fiction, everybody is not you, unless you're writing from the perspective of you as the main character, which
yeah,
is not usually the case. You're usually writing for multiple people's perspectives, even if you're writing first person. So
exactly.
the idea of you have to be this person to talk about the experience doesn't quite make sense, but it in some senses it does, in
And
some
it's like I
senses it
see
does.
where they're coming from with that, and I think that like, the underside of it is they're trying to support people of color generally in this sort of conversation of a white author, writing a black character. I understand that they wanna support people of color, but I think instead of bringing down the white author who is bringing diversity to a space that desperately needs it,
Right.
instead of bringing down this person, like, seek out the people of color authors because 'cause we're out here and read their books and lift them up instead. And I think that that's such a
Mhm.
better way of doing things. And so that's something that I'm trying to do without like I don't like a lot of attention on myself, especially in like a negative way. And so I'm trying to do that in as positive way as I can in this new space, knowing like I'm a newcomer. I just published my first book this year. But there's just so like the culture is just so rampant in the author space, the fiction author space that I'm hoping for, like, a change soon because it's so desperately needed.
Yeah. So how do we be more positive? Well, you're never going to stop trolls, I think.
No.
I think a lot of times it's just a troll and they're
Mhm.
just going to do it regardless of who you are and what you're talking about. They're just going to be negative just to be negative. So I think focusing on the positives, like you were saying, is the way to live your experience as an author, or else you're just going to go crazy worrying about what people are saying
Yeah,
negatively
yeah, and I had
about
to
you.
unsubscribe from Goodreads reviews because sometimes, people have comments and they genuinely it's just not for them, and that's
Right.
fine, but I can't read that every day. But what I will say was a cool thing that happened to me, recently, a couple weeks ago, was I was scrolling through Reddit, as one does, and now I'm in all the book Reddits, so I was just looking around. I never comment because Reddit scares me, so I'm a lurker over there, but someone, like, recommended my book
Oh, nice.
in a Reddit thread, and I took a screenshot of it because it was just one of those moments where I was like, "It's working." Like, people are reading my book, and they recommended it. I don't know who any of these people are, so it was just one of those moments where I was like, "There is a lot of positive out here, and there's probably way more positive than negative. They're just probably all lurking like me."
Yeah. And we tend as people in general to focus on the negative instead of the positive. Like 1,000 people could say, "Oh, it was amazing," and then you get that one person that's like, "Oh, this is trash," and you're like,
Yep,
"Ah, why? Why did I write this? This doesn't
yep.
make any sense, right?"
Yeah. When I first published the book, I hired a proofreader and I edited the rest myself. So it was self-edited, self-published. And then the first couple of reviews came in, and one of them, only one, said, "Man, this book could have used with some better editing." Near the end. And I was like, "Oh, no." So, like, I panic hired someone to professionally edit my book, and I am re-releasing it next month, just because of one comment that I don't whether it's true or not, I don't care at this point because I already paid for it. But you're right, and, like, we focus in on the negative comment, and, yeah, I mean, she was right, or they were right, whoever the commenter was right about, like, I could have used some tightening up, but did I need to absolutely do that right now? Maybe not.
It makes you feel better then maybe. Like, you'll be
Yeah,
thinking about that comment all the time, and by actually doing the editing thing, you're taking that load off of yourself, and
yeah.
if you're able to afford it and you wanna do it in the long run, might as
Yeah,
well
and
do
you
it
know
now.
what too? I was surprised with how many people read it initially. I think in my mind, I was thinking I didn't do a huge launch campaign. I just kind of put it out there. I was not expecting the response. And I
Mm,
think that part of this was because the book has a black man on the cover, I do feel like there's a certain segment of people who are choosing it over the other books in the category. And I
exactly,
think
yeah.
that worked in my favor in the beginning because I had so many people reading it that I didn't really promote it that heavily. That I people I didn't know. And so um I had that like, well, I'm gonna put this out there, nobody's gonna read it. And then, oh no, people are reading it.
Wow.
Oh no,
The opposite
I
experience
know.
of most people,
I
yeah.
know. It's so silly, but anyways.
Yeah, can you talk about since you weren't heavily promoting it like you wanted to in the beginning, how did you get it out there? You just released it? Did you put it on any did you try to get it on your list? What was your
Yeah,
method, at
social
least in the
media.
beginning?
I mean, so I'm a marketer and I'm a social media marketer at that. So that's my jam. So I created my Instagram. I created a Facebook profile, not even a page, it was a profile, and a Threads account. So I had those three. I have a TikTok too, but I didn't want to put my face on my account because it's under a pin name. So I didn't really do much with TikTok. Um, and then I just started following people. And honestly, I'm a fan first and a writer
Right,
second.
exactly.
So for me, my author account, I started it like a month or two before I launched my book. I'm just trying to think. I launched in June. I started like the end of April. Um, so I first, before, because I didn't even have promo graphics, I didn't even have a cover yet for the book. I was just posting about books that I like to read, so what I was
Mhm.
reading, and then fangirling to, like, all of these authors who I've been reading their books for years, and I never followed them on social media before. Now I'm following them and kind of like discovering the social side of this hobby that I've had for a long time. And so honestly, my first couple hundred followers were me just like fangirling and finding other fans. And then when I launched the book, 2 things happened. One of my who I now consider an author friend, who's a pretty big author in this space, shout out to M.A. Wardell. He shared my book on launch day because I'm a huge fan of his, and anything he writes, I'm instantly reading it. Like, don't even need a description, like, just tell me you've launched a book and I'm reading it. So I was fangirling and I joined his Patreon and everything. Um, and then so when my book came out, he saw my post because he'd been liking and followed me back and liking my post. So he shared it to his stories. And I got so many followers from that too. And people adding it to their list, even a couple people in the Patreon ended up sharing it like with unprompted on their social media. And so for me, it was kind of just being in the community as a member first before trying to ask of anything from that
Right.
community, which to me is just what I would do with any marketing anyways. I think it's really important to join like if you're entering into a new space, especially read the room, figure out the energy, participate as a community member before trying to lead that community as well. So that's just what I did. And even now, I use my account to fangirl about books and movies that I like, basically, in between book launches. Specifically right now, there's a show coming out that's based off of a book, and it's really like the first, um, indie author turned self-published author in, like, the gay romance space, whose book is being turned into a movie. And
Oh,
even
wow.
more interesting is it's a hockey romance. It's, like, typically a very masculine like, there are no out NHL players for context. Like, there are no out high-level hockey players. So the fact that this is even becoming a show is wild, and so right now, I'm just, like, with all of the fans because 'cause I'm a fan too. We're all just talking about it, reposting to our stories. I'm in the comment section adding my little thoughts, and I think that there's an energy to that so that when I'm promoting my book, it doesn't really feel like I'm pushing it out to strangers. I'm just sharing it with, like, my people. I'm like, "Hey, I
Mhm.
did something too," and I feel like that feels a little less thirsty, if you will.
Yeah, I think a lot of creative people like to approach it like they have to do everything themselves. But really, when you have community, you're able to connect with people. You become friends with people essentially, whether it's online or offline. And when you have friends, you're more willing to support each other. Even if you know each other in passing, you're more likely to give it a chance versus finding it cold, and not knowing anything
Yeah,
about the person.
100%. And I think too, especially as authors, it's a big ask to ask someone to read our book. Especially if it's in my opinion, especially if it's not on audio, because I I think reading is like a dying art almost sometimes, like, especially a physical book. Like, I read mostly on Kindle. If someone sent me a physical book, it would take me so much longer because I have to remember to bring that book with me everywhere, whereas I carry my phone with me everywhere. I have the Kindle app open, like, it's one of my top 5 apps. Like, I'm reading all the time, right? But even then, it's a huge ask. Like, when my friends release books and they're like, "Can you read my book?" I feel like I have to pause my reading schedule to, like, adjust to read their book,
Mm.
and I'll happily do it. But I'm a big reader. I can't imagine the people who read, you know, 3, 4, 5 books a year. You're asking to be one of those books. It's a huge ask. So I think there's a high level of trust that's required with that sort of ask.
Yeah, it's we're all fighting for attention. You're fighting with every single thing that a person could possibly do. Like they could
Yeah.
go on Reddit, they can go on TikTok, they can watch a movie, they could go do something in real life. So you really have to be able to connect and make it interesting enough for people to want to pause from their regular schedule and kind of
Mhm.
give a
Yeah,
chance.
exactly.
How are you going to approach the second book differently from the first book
Yeah,
as
so
far as
I already
marketing
messed
goes?
up, so don't do what I did. But, I wrote the first book so quickly that I assumed the second book would be as
Mm.
quick, And so when I launched the first book, I launched it in June. I said the second book's going to be out in October. And I had actually already started writing the second book at that point. It is now late November, and I don't even have it to my editor yet. And I am going to use an editor going forward because I really enjoyed the process. Um, so already I've messed up because I've been promoting it. I said it'll be out in October, it'll be out in November. Now I'm like, it'll be out at some point. At some point, it'll be out. So how I'm approaching it differently is I'm gonna completely write the book before I set the launch date.
Hmm.
Um,
Yourself
to
a
have
chance.
to give
Give it
myself a chance. And I think for this next one, I will. So there's a lot of these aggregate sites that have the advanced reader copies, so ARC readers.
Alright.
So for this next round, for the first round, I found my own ARC readers. I posted on Threads and I said, "Hey, does anyone want to read this like super spicy gay romance book?" And then I got up like 25 people said yes. So that's how I got my first ARC reader. For this next round, I'm going to be more intentional. There's a few sites that are in my category. I will do that because they'll want to read book one first too, if there's a spike
Right.
in book two. So I think what I will do is get ARC readers for book one at the same time I'm promoting book two because I'm Kindle Unlimited. So I want people to kind of binge read the books.
Okay.
Um, and then when I launch book three, I'll do ARC readers for book two and kind of do that pattern as I go through them. But the second mistake I made is I bought a table at one of the author events because a friend invited me to buy a table. And I thought, oh, for sure, I'm going to have like six, seven books by then. I don't know what I was thinking. This was before I got back to work because I wrote a lot on my maternity leave.
Hmm.
And I just forgot. I got work to do. Um, so my other arbitrary goal is I'll have this next one done by then. The event is in May, so I want to get one more book launch so that I have at least three books on the table for this event, and then I'm gonna have to do like swag or something to fill up my table or partner with another author or something. Um, but yeah, those are the two mistakes I made. But headed into this next launch too, I think I'm really going to emphasize the things that my readers told me that they liked about the book, things that I didn't even recognize the first time. So there's a motherly character that everyone loved, like one of the main characters' moms. I did not know that everyone would love her that much. And so I'm gonna like when I pulled quotes from the book, I just pulled quotes from the two main characters. So going into this next book, I
Mhm.
feel like I'm gonna leverage more of the cast of characters versus just the stars of the show because there are some secondary, tertiary characters that people just loved. Um, so I'm gonna lean into that, into my content marketing a little bit more. And then the last thing is the reason that this book I think took off was some of my friends who are authors and so I may do some fun things with my author friends. I haven't figured out what yet, but I have a friend who literally mails this is Emmett Wardell again. He mails physical books out to his fans and his author friends with like custom made stickers and stuff. So people are opening and basically doing unboxing videos of his
Hmm.
books and posting them on social media. And it's like such a brilliant thing. It feels like a PR box. But from my world, I'm like, oh, this is like product placement. And so it feels like a PR box. So I may do something like that with some of the friends that I've made along the way who have, they have the community that reads the same books that I write. And so I'm trying to find ways to like say thank you and also like I'd love it if you could share it if you like it.
Great. Couple more questions. What is the message that you want to get out to people through your writing?
I think that um I think that everyone can fall in love and all sorts of people fall in love with each other. And it doesn't have to be heavy, it can be fun. And it can be lighthearted, and that's the kind of stuff that I like to read too. Like, of course, there's still some serious topics that are addressed, but at the end of the day, these are just two people finding their love, and so that's hopefully the message that gets across when people read it.
Yeah. More of a message of hope than than
Yeah,
anything, right?
yeah,
Love can be for anyone. I think that's why a lot of people do read romance,
Mhm.
regardless of what type of romance it is. It's just they want to see people be happy because
Yeah.
generally people find a lot of sadness in the world. So let's get a little bit of
Yeah,
light in
for sure.
there. What do you think makes an author stand out, and what do you do yourself that you think
Mm.
makes you stand out?
I think that, especially since I read a lot of books, I can very easily point out an author when they have a very distinct style. And I think this is something that is very hard to do. Especially for someone like me who's a people pleaser, you kind of have to be okay with like some people aren't gonna like this.
Right.
So some of my favorite authors, they do things that are like against the rule book of what you're supposed to do, right? But they're my favorite authors. I will read everything they write 3 times over because I thoroughly enjoy it. And so that's what I try to do in my book as well. And that is another piece of feedback I got that I didn't change was because these are social media influencers essentially in my book, they speak internet speak, basically. Like
Yeah.
there's an internet lexicon to the way that they talk. And somebody wrote a review and was like, "Oh man, the people in this book sound like Gen Z," as like a complaint. And I was like, "Oh, that's a perk for me. Thank you." like that is the vibe of this book. And so I think that that is also the thing that I bring into my books is like how I think they stand out is having that unique sense. But it's too soon to tell. So I'm not going to get too self-aggrandizing. But I think some of my favorite authors they have such a distinct style that I know that when I read their books, I kind of know what to expect.
Yeah. And it's also fun to experiment. So you have your distinct style, but sometimes you change it up and see what the reaction is versus, always being stuck. That's part of the creative
Yeah,
process,
yeah.
I
Like my
think.
favorite author is Lily Mayne. So if y'all like queer romance, I gotta highly recommend Lily Mayne. She is amazing. And she started writing these like romanticy books, which of course everyone loves romanticy, but it's like the traditional formula of like super like vampires, werewolves, fairies. Then her most recent series is her just having fun and experimenting, and it's this underground WrestleMania style company but all the wrestlers are like, there's a werewolf, there's a flying beetle, there's like, you know what I mean? And so it's like so wacky, but at the same time, there's like excellent character development, excellent world building. It's just not as serious as like the traditional romantasy kind of genre. But when you read her books, it's still Lily Mayne through and through. Like her writing style's all in there. And so yes, I love the experimentation because then you get it's called I forget what it's called. The something of wrestling the Goliaths of wrestling is what it's called. And then you get series like that where you're like, this is so wacky. I'm glad that she went this direction because if she just explained it, you'd be like, nobody wants to read it. But they're like fans are like hungry for the next book, you know?
Oh, yeah. It's amazing when what you can do when you, find your people, and if you're, you know, dedicated to it, you can make a living. I mean, it's hard, but, some
It's
people do it.
true. Yep.
Can you give a challenge to anybody, authors or any other creative people who are watching this that they can take action on?
Um, use use whatever tools you can to help you. I used to think I wasn't a writer. I didn't think I could do it. Actually, I said that for years and years. And then I, out of desperation, started writing because first of all, I couldn't find the stories I wanted to read. And I had a baby and she was very colicky and she wouldn't let me put her down. So that's when I started getting into audiobooks, um, reading them. And then I thought, well, what if I just dictate? What if I just dictate a book? Like she's 3 months old and I can't put her down. So I
Mhm.
literally started dictating in a Google Doc my book. And so that's how I realized like, oh, there's a story here and it still needs a lot of work, but I was able to shape the story through dictation. And I don't think I would have ever called myself a writer had I not relied on modern technology, which is honestly something I do in my work anyways. Like if I have to write an email, a lot of times I'm dictating it first. 'Cause I'm a talker, if you can tell. But a lot of times I'm dictating it first and then I'll go in and I'll fix it. Even texting, I use voice to text almost exclusively And it just never crossed my mind to do that with writing until I had to. And then once I did, I was like, "Oh, I can get so much farther this way because this is just how I like to use technology." And so I think for anyone who's going down this path who thinks that they can't do it, maybe look at the tools you have and figure out if there's a way you can either speed along the process or use just technology to be the assistant you need to get your work out there in the world.
Beautiful. Well, this has been amazing talking to you, and Andrea. Can you let people know where to find you other
Yeah.
than Substack?
I'm online Drea, that's online Drea everywhere. I spend most of my time on Instagram though, online Drea. And then if you want to look at my author stuff, it's author Olivia Carter. If you go to authoroliviacarter.com, that's my website, and my Instagram handle is author Olivia Carter as well.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on and chatting.
Thanks for having
It's
me,
been fun.
Kevin. Yeah.
Okay, bye.